Hello, hello. So exciting you made it. My name is Andrew Dugan. I am your guide for today. I'm one of the trainers of the Yoga Better training here in Houston, Texas. And we often do our little Q&A sessions for the training in the weeks leading up to it, and it occurred to me, why not just record one to answer all your questions about the course? A little bit about me, the room I'm in right now. For those of you subscribers to the website, you'll notice this is where we record all the pre-recorded videos. This is part of our studio where we have lots of group classes every week with lots of different amazing trainers who have been through the Yoga Better training. We've had the studio in this space since 2018, the studio as a whole since 2017. And we started our teacher training, the course I'm inviting you to, in 2014. So this June, and the second course that we start in this coming year will be our 10th anniversary, which is pretty amazing. You heard that right. We had a teacher training before we had a studio. So the training itself is actually our favorite thing. It's our most important thing that we care about. Ultimately, the training was an answer to a series of questions about how I make the biggest difference possible with yoga. About 15 years ago, I asked myself, what do I want with the practice, with the business? And I kept landing on this answer, make the biggest difference possible in the world with people's health and their movement. This is the practice that saved my life and my body. I ruined every joint in my body with a more traditional yoga practice. And over the decades of practice and study and learning and education, we developed this style. Very different than anything else you've ever tried. We like to call it a evolutionary style of yoga. We think it's a revolution, but it's also just staying in an inquiry, allowing the question to evolve your answer over not just days or weeks, but over decades. I started yoga in 1996. I've taught over 40,000 classes. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Andrew Dugan. I was born and raised here in Houston, Texas. Since 2010, I have taught 7 days a week, many thousands of classes every year. My main commitment and what I orient my schedule to and what I orient my life energy to is teaching the most people possible. So if I keep asking myself this question, how do I help the most people possible? There's lots of answers to it. I could teach more. That's the first thing I started doing. So now for more than a decade, I've been teaching 7 days a week. I've been delivering classes to as many people as I possibly can. But there's a clear limit, right? There's only 168 hours in the week, only 10,080 minutes in a week. I can't actually teach infinitely. I can't teach 1 billion people in a week. But I can train you to teach. And then you go and you help people. And so we've leveraged, we've amplified, we've done all the things that good business does, but completely in service of helping people, this mission of making a difference in human health. I set myself to start writing the teacher training in 2012, really in earnest 2013, and we began in June of 2014. And one of the first questions I got to ask myself is, what kind of training do I want? What kind of things do we get to have in the course? And the cool thing is, all education is made up, all schools are made up, the whole idea of schools and education is made up. And if it's all made up, can we obviously not repeat things that have already existed? So for instance, when I took my teacher training, I only took it to learn as much as I possibly could. I loved the practice of yoga. I wanted to get the most out of my practice. I wanted to learn the most that I could. And it really is still kind of true today that there kind of isn't a place to go for like graduate yoga school. You can't just go to learn. And so especially then, and even still today, teacher training is kind of the thing that you do to learn as much as you possibly can about this practice. So that's the only reason I took my course, and I took my course with Robert Bustani. And at the time, his training was 1 year long, and you met every Tuesday for a year. And I knew I didn't want to do another course like Robert, mainly because we have a Robert, right? I love Robert. We are very much on the Bustani lineage. We honor that in every possible way. He's my friend, he's my teacher, but I'm not him, and we already have that, so can we do something different? Can we find a new way. And so, okay, first thing we looked at was how long. Okay, a year, that's kind of a long time. Do we do it in a weekend? Okay, we can't learn anything in a weekend, not really. You can impact trajectory in a moment, absolutely. But real integration, real learning takes time. So I chose a 5-month time period. And over those 5 months, we meet every Wednesday and 7 Saturdays. So most courses are between 20 and 22 Wednesdays, and then 7 Saturdays. Every Wednesday you can think of as the information data dump days. The Wednesdays are from 7 to 10 if you do them in person or via Zoom. If you do them online or watch the videos, they're whenever you want. You can do them while doing the dishes. It's hard to take notes though. So from 7 to 10 p.m. every Wednesday, we dive into just information. And it is going to, even if you're very good at learning, it's going to feel like a lot of information. So the first 8 Wednesdays are anatomy. And we train doctors in anatomy. It is the most in-depth functional mechanical anatomy you can take. What it isn't is an anatomy course for anatomists. So we don't dive into all of the information. If this was an in-person thing, I would say, who knows what the word gross means? Not like, but like, we take the most gross view of the human body. And then we got a lot of smarty pants listening. It's like, oh, the most generalized, large, simplified. You got it, brilliant. Everything that we look at in anatomy is directly applicable to you understanding how your body works. And even better, how you can, through your eyeballs, be able to look at a human being and immediately tell what's going on with them and make a difference. So one of the things you will actually develop through our training is developing what we call bone sight. So when I look at you, right now all I see is a camera, but if I was looking at you right now, I would see a loose collection of bones. And if I can see where your bones are, now I know the angle of every joint, which means I know the position of every muscle, how long or short it is. I know how the weight of your body is loaded through that skeleton, which means I know what's activated, what's loaded, what's on, what's off. And then I can make adjustments to your posture to get you different results. So you come to me with an issue in your shoulder, I take a look at you and I see the angle of your bones. I can just glancing at you, and we can change a few things and immediately make a difference. And then of course, it's not always that simple. Sometimes we look at you doing movement, sometimes we look at you in a pose. And so if I can look at you and understand where the bones are, that tells me where the joints are, that tells me where the muscles are, and all of a sudden, I have a pretty holistic view of how the body works. What we do not dive into is all of the specific pathways of all of your blood vessels and nerves. We do not look at liver function. We do not study the chemistry of your gallbladder. We really don't do a deep dive into brain function. We do look at how to think, but that comes later in the pedagogy sections. You could look at the human body through any lens, right? So I can, if I take a different kind of lens, for those of you photographers, the lens changes the perspective, the view of what you're looking at. Another way of thinking about perspective or your view of something is where you are standing. So if I stand on the top of a mountain, at the top of the mountain, I have a very good view of everything around me, if there isn't any clouds. But at the top of the mountain, I have very good perspective. I see clearly all kinds of stuff in all directions. Except you're standing on a different mountaintop with a different set of perspectives. And so we demand the question, what is the right perspective? Which of our perspectives is true? And the obvious answer is neither is true or false. It's just two perspectives. And so we actually will get very good at being able to shift perspectives to gain as much insight as possible. The perspective that we take, the place that we stand, the mountaintop that we stand on in anatomy is what is the most generalized, what is the most big picture, gross view of every part of the human body that's going to make the biggest possible impact, the 98% impact on your understanding and application of that knowledge. For instance, we don't look at fascia. That is very like, oh my gosh, no fascia. And I'll talk to you about why. We mainly look at, almost entirely, bones. Where the bones touch, those are the joints. Some of the ligaments that hold those bones together, and most of the muscles that articulate those bones to create joint movement. That's it. There's a few nerves that we look at, a few blood vessels. That's kind of it. It is not comprehensive. We don't look at every single detail. But the cool thing is, we make two promises about the anatomy. The first is, by week 4, you will know more about the human body than any other yoga teacher who has not taken our training. That's a promise, right there. By halfway through our anatomy, you will know more than any other yoga teacher who has not taken our course. Full stop. That's a guarantee. And 2, you will actually be fluent in the language of your anatomy text. I don't know if you knew this, but you were born with an instruction manual. It's anatomy text. The problem is it's written in another language. It's Latinate. It's like Italian. And it's a totally made-up language. If you spoke these words to people in ancient Rome in Latin, like, they would not understand what you're saying. It's a made-up language. They have to learn to actually understand what's going on with the body. But we have a language. It's here. And for those of you that aren't fluent, you will be fluent, which means that after the course, you can continue to learn. If you have any question about a human body, you just take a finger, point it apart, you open up the book, and this is the book that we will be using for the training, but you can open up any anatomy book, understand exactly what they're saying, and deep dive and peel back all of the layers of mystery to understand all the detail in any anatomy text. And that's such a big deal. You'll be fluent in the language of your body. All the remaining Wednesdays are about human movement, postures, and actually the positions of our practice. So, for instance, we'll spend an entire day on breathing, an entire day on relaxation and meditation, an entire day on down dog. And down dog is a great example of a position that if I can understand down dog, it's going to apply to a lot of different positions. I'll understand wrist and shoulder function in handstands. I'll understand hip mobility and all forward bending. I'll understand ankle mobility for things like squatting. It's a big, big deal. And we'll spend more than 3 hours deep diving the craziest amount of detail you've ever heard on a position like down dog. But we have these 7 Saturdays. If you were in person, I would say, who knows what the word pedagogy means? And normally there's a lot of crickets, but you are brilliant, and you would actually say it's the study of teaching, and that's exactly right. It's how do you teach people to teach? It's when someone teaches what works and what doesn't work. And so we actually have 5 days dedicated to pedagogy, those 5 Saturdays, and those days are from 11 to 9. It's all day. It sounds like a lot, except we make many promises in our course, and one of the big ones is that you will have more energy, you'll be able to focus for longer, you'll be able to sit on the floor more comfortably, but sit on the floor for 10 straight hours. You'll obviously move around, but it won't be as exhausting as it is in the beginning. On day 1, it's going to be pretty intense. But by the end of the course, it's one of the skills that you really want. You really want to be able to sit on the floor. You really want to be able to have energy levels controlled throughout the day, and you will get much, much better at that. On our pedagogy days, we look at teaching for 2 main reasons. One, you want to teach, you got to study what it means to be a teacher. So we look at leadership, we look at communication, we look at learning, we look at perspective. So being able to look at the world through another person's perspective, very, very powerful if I'm going to be a communicator, professional communicator. But also, for those of you who know who Richard Feynman is, the Nobel laureate, he had a method for learning how to learn. And so it was very simple. It's just a little cycle, a little loop you put yourself into. You want to get as much information on a certain topic. You want to learn as much as you can about fountain pens or surfing or whatever. You go study it, you go do it as much as you possibly can, and then you teach it. And when you teach it, the holes in your knowledge become so crystal clear. You really get what you don't get. And that is the biggest gift you can give to yourself as a learner, as somebody who educates themselves, which I hope you all are. And every person that comes into this room to study with us in this training very much is. And so we teach as a foil, as a tool to learn more deeply ourselves And I am convinced you will fall in love with teaching, and if you go and teach people, the world will be a better place. That's what those first 5 Saturdays are for. And so you will practice teaching. I'll teach you everything I know about how to teach the best class ever, about how to make the biggest possible difference when you're the one at the front of the room. All that's on the first 5 Saturdays. The last 2 of the 7 Saturdays will be our completion of our postures day. So you'll practice teaching a little bit, but mainly we will dive into and have the whole day to look at positions like squatting and down dog and handstands and back bends. We cover a lot of postures, over 1,100 variations of dozens of principal postures. But wait, there's more. On the last Saturday, the last 3-hour block of the last Saturday, we have our business section. Now, I love business. I am a recovering hippie, a classical musician turned yoga instructor who loves business. And so we talk openly about money, we talk openly about how to grow and have an ethical business and how to create your own business. And of course, why I love business is it's completely made up thing that actually can put food on people's tables. And it's a structure to actually make a bigger difference in the world. I love it. On the final Wednesday, we have a test. And it'll be, unless you've taken something at the GRE, it'll be the hardest test you've ever taken. And the funnest test you've ever taken. One of the things I promise you is I don't actually care what you can memorize. So I'm not interested in you being bulimic at me with all of your information. You just like cram, and then you barf it up on the test. Not interesting. So it's fun for me because I get to write a test that tests how you think. And how do you respond to questions that you can't possibly know. So that's the test. When I took my teacher training, we had 18 people on day 1. And a year later, 6 people took the test. And to me, that was it made no sense. It was so crazy to me because why would you avoid finding out what you don't know? And so one of the things we're most proud of is that everybody who starts on day 1 has taken that darn test. So please take the test, stay for the test. It's not about passing or failing. It's about learning what you learn. It's about seeing what you don't know. It's about looking and finding gaps in your knowledge. And I grade your tests, and then I send them back to you with the answer key of how I would answer the questions. So the answer key for the last class was more than 5,000 words. It's a big multi-page document. Take the test. You'll love it. When you take the course, you get 2 certifications, possibly. The first certification you get just from being in the course, and that's the Yoga Alliance certification. We pay Yoga Alliance money every year to say that we're a yoga studio. What Yoga Alliance does not know is anything about what it is that we teach, and we are convinced that the Yoga Alliance is more or less a Ponzi scheme. And the accreditation you get from being a Yoga Alliance teacher is worthless. That said, it is a professional courtesy. We pay them money so that you have the option to use the thing because it does have some cachet in this world, and it will help you get a job if you care about that. So everyone who starts the class and ends the class will immediately become eligible to get a Yoga Alliance certification. All you have to do is pay them money and show them the certification and just keep paying them every year, and like magic, you're a certified Yoga Alliance instructor. If you pass the test, you will be a Yoga Better instructor. And what that means is I trust you to teach people. I trust you with my grandma and my grandkids. And I trust you that you're going to take care of them. You're going to know how to solve problems. You won't know everything. You're not going to be like a perfect teacher. But you will begin the process of becoming an amazing teacher by beginning to teach. And you'll be starting with the commitments that make the biggest difference, like a foundation that gives you the best shot to make the biggest possible difference in their health. We make some big promises in this training, but we also invite you to make some commitments yourself. So this is the manual for last year's course. This is without the 120,000 word Pedagogy book that you will be getting. The book, you get about almost 400,000 words of documents for the course. So we ask that you make some promises. And there's actually 2 whole pages of commitments. And I'll just give you a taste of some of the commitments that you'll be making for you to be a participant in the training. The first is that you show up. You attend every class. It is possible to get real value out of the class by showing up some small fraction of the time, except why not just commit to being here and see what happens? But then you say, but Andrew, I know that I can't possibly make it to every class. And so the commitment is that you experience every class. Classes that you can't make, we actually record. The camera I'm talking into right now and the mic I'm talking right now into, we record every millisecond of every training day. And then we give you those videos. So you never miss a word. I'm wearing a lav. We mic the room. You'll hear every question. You'll hear every answer. And you'll get to see everything because we actually have 2 cameras on at all points in the room. You will get more if you're in the room or live on Zoom. You'll be able to ask questions in real time. You'll be able to be stimulated by the people in the room to ask questions. And then when you ask questions, it shapes the trajectory of the room, which leads us to our second commitment, which is to come to class, every class, with questions. This is one that no one has ever succeeded in doing, not once. This will be our 15th training. 0% of the people have shown up to every class with questions. Mainly because coming up with questions is actually kind of hard. So first of all, I don't want you coming to class like, why is the blah, 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 blah. You're not treating me or the other trainers like fix it for me. You're not coming as somebody who can't answer their own questions. Of course you can answer your own questions. You're coming into class because notice the sort of emotional difference. You have some problem that you're dealing with. When you find the solution, notice that you relax. Oh, thank goodness, I'm done. And consider that that's actually what your brain really, really wants. Your brain does not want to be thinking about these friggin' problems. And so it wants to stop asking the questions. Except you got that awesome answer that you got because you were asking the question. And the moment you stop asking the question, all you have now is the answer. But what if this is like the 27th best answer available right now? What if this is the best answer today and next year it's the 100th best answer? How will you evolve this answer? You got it, questions. And so in this style, we are questions collectors. It's really kind of all we care about. We have amazing answers. In my view, we have the best answers. We got the best poses, we got the best thinking, but that's not actually our jewel. Our biggest prize, the things that we care about and are most proud of developing, is having honed the questions that actually lead us to even better and better answers. And the willingness and the discomfort and the exhausting time it takes to keep asking these questions. It is the most powerful gift. You come to class with every question, you make a huge difference in your life. And of course, what you do is you trigger other questions, and it really wakes the whole room up. It's a really powerful thing. And you make the commitment in the very beginning to come to class with every question. Andrew, you just said 0% of the people who've taken your training have been able to do that, except you're telling me to commit. There's no integrity in that. Aha! So we will actually look at the word commitment and get really comfortable with making commitments so that we can actually see where our gaps are. This isn't about perfect. And for those of you who've ever been to a class where a Yoga Better instructor teaches, you will hear them say, we are not here for perfect. The name of the style is not Yoga Perfect. It's Yoga Better. We keep coming back to the word better, and we name this style after the word better because better is actually a measurable state. I can compare how I am today with how I was last week with a given aim for the future, and I can see, am I getting closer to this aim or am I not? I can't actually tell if I'm perfect. Perfect is not a measurable state. So, we don't care about you fulfilling these perfectly. What we do is that what happens when you make a commitment? And then what had you not show up? And what had you not come to class with questions? That's an interesting question. I just asked 2 awesome questions. How cool is that? And you ask those 2 questions and it actually stimulates growth. We get to grow together. That's the whole point. We ask you to finish the course, take the test. If for any of you who've ever hired a contractor, you know that getting them to finish the job has agreed it's the hardest thing. And it is a life-changing thing to step into this room and go through the whole process and do what you said you were going to do and wind up at the end and take that test. It's worth it. It's worth your time. So we ask you to take the course and to finish it. If you are interested in teaching, one of the agreements you make is that you get a job teaching yoga. But Andrew, I am not certified until you certify me, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, I've actually never gotten a job with my resume. And the fact is that there is no technical government-sanctioned licensing and accreditation. It's all just, it's the Wild West. Go find a class. People are desperate for your help. And so if I wanted to learn how to ride a bike, and I went to bike school, and then I waited to try riding a bike until after the school was over, can you see how insane that is? I gotta get on the bike. There's only one way to learn how to ride a bike. You gotta get on the bike and you gotta start failing. And so what you do, if you start teaching before the course is over, you go out there and you start having failures of communication and like, what about this thing with their issue, and this guy did this with his knee, and how do I blah, blah, blah. There's no way I can just download 40,000 plus classes into you. What you have to do is you go have those experiences, and then you bring those experiences to this room so that the master trainers that teach this training can actually get their eyeballs on you and give you feedback in real time before the training is over. And you will my view of teaching is exactly my view of babies. You want a baby, go make a baby. I may have lost some of you now. But I got married at 19, baby at 21. I got 4 kids. I love kids, and I'm pretty impatient. I don't like waiting. And so just dive in. When it comes to teaching, dive in, and you make that agreement, I promise you will never regret it. It's not easy, and like I said, you will have some failures, but that is the only way forward. You cannot learn in the absence of failures. There is even more commitments that you will make, but you get to find those out on day 1 of your training. Now, if you're going to make these commitments, I'm going to make promises to you. You can find these on the website, but I'll read them here. You will have a new kind and quality of depth. Let's try that again. You will have a new kind of quality and depth of knowledge of yoga anatomy, postures, teaching, leading, communicating, and much more. You will create an awareness of why you do what you do and clarity on what it is that you truly want, semicolon, then develop the skill of creating structures in your life that support you in having that. You will have more power in the face of life's excitement. You will have the ability to be yourself in the face of anyone's behavior, facial expression, or commitment. You will have breakthroughs in your personal goals. You'll have a massive increase in your capacity for love and empathy. I am not implying that you're a heartless monster or that any of the things I've actually just promised you don't have. These are all actually increases. From where you are, it'll get better. That's the promise. You will have the ability to communicate at the highest levels. You will see this course as a turning point, forever demarcating before and after of how you view your life. And finally, you will be able to teach a great class anywhere of any size or category, regardless of how you feel, to anyone at any level, condition, issue, history, attitude, or facial expression. Big promises. Once you enroll, once you register, you will get a reading list. If you ever come to my house, the first thing that you'll notice is just like books. And I love libraries and books. I love people's libraries. And if I ever come to your house, the very first thing I'm going to do, if I see some books, I'm turning my head. If they're, in the US and this way, if we're in Europe. And I'm going to look through your books, because looking through your books is sort of like looking through your brain. But Andrew, I'm not a reader. Does that mean I don't have a brain? No. It's just, I personally love books. And it was real fun getting to develop a reading list, because I don't want to make you think a certain way. This is not think exactly the way Andrew and Andrea and Larry think. This is, can we actually create questions that force certain kinds of evaluation, self-evaluation, self-inquiry. And there are only 3 books that you have to buy, and only 2 books you really have to read, and only 1 book you need a physical copy of. So let's do that in order. There's only 1 book you need a physical copy of, and that is the anatomy text. You will get that. You will have a physical copy of it. You will, with your thumbs, manipulate it. You're welcome to buy 27 1,000 digital copies, but you are required to have a physical copy of our anatomy text. It is the only thing that you are allowed to have while taking the test. Not your phone, not your iPad, not your digital anything. It'll be a physical copy of the book, and that's it. There are 2 other books that you get to buy. One is just a highly recommended book that is annoying because it's the mechanics book that I wish I would have written, that I am writing, and it's so good that I just put it on the reading list. We do not go through this book, but this is The Anatomy of Movement. It's written by a French former ballet dancer. The illustrations are great. The text is great. There's less than 30 mistakes in this anatomy book, which is actually quite rare. There's only a dozen mistakes in this anatomy text. Most anatomy texts have more. Most movement or anatomy texts that have anything to do with like dancing or Pilates or any specific discipline like biking or running are written by a personal trainer or a Pilates instructor or heaven forbid, a yoga instructor. It's just all mistakes. There's nothing correct about it. This does a fantastic job. It has less than 30 mistakes, and so huge boon to your practice, and will help to reinforce the language of movement, which is very important. We need that to have a deeper understanding. The third book is the book that you have to buy and read cover to cover. You can do it in any format that you like. Book on tape, I don't recommend that, but great, listen to it. Get the digital version, buy the physical version, and that is Marshall Rosenberg's main book on nonviolent communication, A Language of Life. So Nonviolent Communication, A Language of Life. And I was lucky enough to get to study with Marshall Rosenberg when I lived in Eugene, Oregon, and it is our third Saturday, so Saturday 3. The whole day is communication. It's our first of 2 communication days. My goal for every single section of the entire course is that if you just only did this 3 hours, it'd be worth $3,800. 100% worth $3,800. And the communication day is worth its weight in gold. It is my favorite day of the entire course, and you were required to have completely read Marshall Rosenberg's MVC book by then. But it's a nice quick read. You can probably do it in one sitting. It's a fantastic book. You will love the stories in it. He's a great educator. And it's a very, very, very powerful tool. We do not, however, use NVC strictly. We'll use my paraphrased methods and we'll do exercises that I developed on my own. The rest of the books are books that are just there to sort of like stimulate thinking. They're not books that you have to read so that you think the way I want you to think or that you have the right ideas. So for instance, BKS Iyengar's Light on Yoga is on the list. Basically, don't do anything in that book. We are on the Iyengar lineage. So we are having this conversation, and I do what I do because of Iyengar. But we are, as much as we honor him, we are openly critical of what he knew and didn't know. In the same way that somebody in the 600 or 1600 or 6,000 years ago could not have possibly known what we know now about anatomy. When you read Iyengar and see how he taught, it's clear he doesn't understand anything about anatomy, and that's unacceptable. So why is BKS Iyengar's Light on Yoga on the reading list? Well, one, the introduction to the book is the best introduction to the inherited, what we might call traditional Indian perspective of what yoga is. It is the best introduction on the inherited tradition I can give you. It's fantastic, and the other, 800 pages are yoga poses, and it's actually how I learned to teach myself yoga. I would just go through that book and teach myself. Please don't do that. What you can do is go through it and start to be curious, like, well, Andrew doesn't teach this, and no yoga better teacher teaches this way and doesn't do it in that way, but Iyengar does, so why? Fantastic question. You start to get curious. And when I start to take Iyengar's perspective and the Yoga Better perspective and start doing that, we actually get really powerful insight. That's the game. That's the whole game. And so every book on the reading list is like that. There's a little quote here on the bottom of page 6 of our overview. Everything I have in my life that I love and cherish was inconvenient. This course, and writing the course, was definitely shaved years of my life. off. I am going to die early because of the work it took me to put this course together. I was writing the content until the last day of the first course. I was in it, creating it as I was delivering it. And the reason I was willing and able to dive so deep and work so hard is because it really was true what my wife said. She looked at me trying to figure out how to become a writer and how to document everything that I knew, decades of practice, but just sort of internal, how do I systematize my knowledge? Terribly difficult thing to do. And she said, whatever you need, I will support you to do it because this is your life's work. This training is my life's work. It's what's made my life worthy, and I love my life, and I do lots of different things. But this is, if I only left one thing behind, this is it that I'm most proud of. And it was not convenient. And so this course kind of might not be for you right now. It's not for everybody, and it's not for everyone at every point in their life. It might be perfect next year or in 10 years. I have people who I have made binders for, so that when they showed up, they would have their binder. And they didn't show up. And the next 6 courses, I made a binder. And they finally came. So the record is 7 courses. The next one is 4. And it's okay. It's great. It's perfect whenever you come. And whenever you do come, which I think should be now, like right now, enroll, register, it's not going to be convenient. And just like you've probably already noticed in your life, but there probably also won't be a better time, probably. Sometimes there are better times, but probably not. Probably not. It's probably now. What kind of person takes this training? It's designed in terms of its time, in terms of its schedule for people who are up to things. We record every minute of the class because people are busy, and although I ask you to commit to being at every class, I would also be just like a little disappointed if you showed up to every minute of every class, because that tells me that you don't have any fun in your life and you're not like up to anything. So like it's for people who have lives. It's for people who work, and that's why we start at 7 on a Wednesday. It's for people that travel. We record every moment. And we invite with this big commitment that you shift things. It's worth missing a wedding. It's worth missing a birthday. My job is to make this time so valuable that you will not regret missing whatever you need to miss so that you be here. And if you need to miss a day, it's designed that you don't miss the content, because what I really care about is that you get the impact in your life. We only care about whether you actually learned and how you learn, and that you get this in your body. It becomes a part of you. Andrew, I'm not an advanced yoga practitioner. Can I still come? Absolutely. We have at least one person in every training who has done yoga maybe less than a week, certainly less than a month. There's always somebody in the room who's never met me before. We've had 2 people who've never done any yoga, period. And they showed up to the course for whatever reason they showed up. One gentleman was a surgeon in Iraq before he immigrated to the US during the war. And his girlfriend was taking the course, and he came to a dinner party at my house. He looked at the anatomy section of the binder and said, I want this. And he enrolled in the next course, having never done a single yoga class, period. Transformed himself, transformed his knees, transformed his leadership. He has the job of his dreams. Like, that's the whole game. We have people who are never going to be teachers because they just know that they don't want to be teachers. We have people who are absolutely sure that they're never going to be teachers, and all of a sudden they teach a free class at their church every week and make a difference. One graduate who started teaching a free class, she made all of her friends go to a church basement every Saturday and start these classes. If you go to one of Andrea's classes during the week, people who started with her come religiously to Andrea's classes because that woman started that free class. It was just for like a year or 2. And she doesn't even teach anymore, but she started that and she was willing to start it. She forever changed the lives of dozens of people. And those people brought other people. So really it's hundreds of people. So we have people who are already seasoned yoga teachers, people who've been teaching for more than 10 years. We have doctors, we have engineers, we have professionals of every possible kind. We have students. We've had 2 people who've taken the course at 14 years old. Those are freshmen in high school. Many high schoolers and lots of college students. We have people take a year off from college to take this course. There's no one person. And what's great is you will find people maybe of your same age, but certainly of your same level. And the thing that I knew would happen, but could not possibly have predicted how true this is. I knew there would be community, but really it is instant community. You have people that you will be friends with the rest of your life, that you will connect to, and will be so connected to you that you don't know them now. You haven't met them yet. It really is such a beautiful thing. It is probably my favorite thing, is the community that comes out of this course. If you have any other questions, don't hesitate. Email us, andrew@yogabetter.com, Andrea, ANDRIA @yogabetter.com. Absolutely welcome to give us a call, 281-704-5578. Write a little note under this video. Make a comment. We're always here for questions. We're always here for you. If you didn't know about the subscription site and you just want to get a taste for what the style is like, for $10 a month, you can have literally thousands of videos that document everything that I know about human movement and the difference in your health. My name is Andrew Duga. I'm one of the founders of Yoga Better Style. Thank you so much for your attention. Cheerio. Keep practicing, keep thinking.